I might, in my own way, be able to contribute a little something to, and that an audience would enjoy.
She died today of cancer at age 62 in her Los Angeles home, surrounded by her family.
Elizabeth Montgomery was a shining star in Hollywood, but this only made her shadow darker. Her life was not easy and was full of unexpected difficulties. This video goes beyond her superficial stardom persona and grapples with the uncomfortable truth. The start. This is the tragic life and sad end of Elizabeth Montgomery. Before Elizabeth experienced the glimmer of stardom as Samantha, her origin was overshadowed by Robert Montgomery's fame. Her identity starts with her father. The roots of her development were sown by this actor and political idealist. Robert Montgomery was a father as complex as his daughter. Elizabeth Montgomery was born in Los Angeles, California, the vibrant entertainment capital. She was born into a family with two show business parents. Elizabeth Allen, her mother, hailed from Kentucky and was a Broadway actress, while her father was Robert Montgomery, an Academy Award nominee and a New Yorker. Regrettably, tragedy struck early in her parents' lives. On October 13, 1930, Robert Montgomery and Elizabeth Allen welcomed a baby girl named after Allen's sister, Martha Bryan. However, the joy was short-lived as the infant child faced a tragic demise in December 1931 at just 14 months due to spinal meningitis. This event forever altered the dynamics of the Montgomery family. Elizabeth, the young daughter, arrived to fill the void in their hearts. Having lost one child, they were now eager to dote on baby Elizabeth, but the presence of Elizabeth didn't do much for the family's grief. Robert was deeply affected by the loss. The death of tiny Martha plunged him into severe depression, immobilizing him for months. A friend familiar with the Montgomerys described Robert's condition, stating that they had never seen anyone as shaken as him. Martha's death had a lasting impact on Robert, who had been emotionally invested in the child throughout her short life. According to the friend, Robert never fully recovered. Something inside him was twisted and destroyed by Martha's death. 5 years after marrying Broadway actress Elizabeth Allen on April 24, 1928, Robert Montgomery welcomed Elizabeth into her privileged childhood, a period coinciding with the peak of his film popularity. Handsome, talented, and rich, Robert possessed the ideal social credentials and a solid intellect. Before establishing himself on the small screen during the 1950s, he had been a feature film legend in the 30s and 40s. In a 1970s interview, Robert Montgomery shared his journey of self-support after his father, described as an executive with a rubber company, passed away, leaving the family without income. According to Elizabeth, her father had to abandon his schooling and enter the workforce to assist the family, revealing that his father had just kind of fallen apart. To put it mildly, Henry Sr. faced depression, a nervous breakdown, and ultimately took his own life. Robert not only had to grapple with the tragedy of his father's death, but also confront a financial crisis and the social stigma associated with having a suicide in the family. Henry Montgomery's nervous breakdown served as a public reminder of a scandal involving Robert's grandfather, Archibald Montgomery, who had been accused of being an insane alcoholic a generation earlier. Although the charges against Robert's grandfather were dismissed, the family name had suffered lasting damage. Whispers of a nervous breakdown, insanity, alcoholism, and suicide proved devastating to the social standing of a prominent family. The news of Henry Montgomery's suicide spread across newspapers nationwide. Regardless, Henry Sr. left his family in a dire financial situation, compelling his son Robert to step in as a railroad mechanic and oil tanker deckhand, roles that did not bring him joy. Fortunately, by the late 1920s, after unsuccessful attempts to become a writer, he established himself as a Broadway actor. He joined his stage peers in the mass migration into film. Elizabeth and her father. Robert Montgomery and Elizabeth had a complicated relationship, perhaps rooted in his challenging early days before he found success as an actor. These formative years, marked by hardship, instilled in him a strong work ethic, a trait he later passed on to Elizabeth. However, the initial experience was far from pleasant. Moreover, the family tragedy would further strain the father-daughter bond between Elizabeth and Robert Montgomery. Elizabeth and her father didn't always see eye to eye, standing on opposite ends of the political spectrum. Despite these differences, their lives shared many similarities. They both were educated at exclusive private schools, although Robert insisted on this for his daughter. At age 6, she made her theatrical debut in Red Riding Hood's world. In contrast, Robert had his theatrical film premiere much later in life with the comedy 3 Live Ghosts in 1929. Elizabeth and her father. Robert Montgomery and Elizabeth had a complicated relationship, perhaps rooted in his challenging early days before he found success as an actor. These formative years, marked by hardship, instilled in him a strong work ethic, a trait he later passed on to Elizabeth. However, the initial experience was far from pleasant. Moreover, the family tragedy would further strain the father-daughter bond between Elizabeth and Robert Montgomery. Elizabeth and her father didn't always see eye to eye, standing on opposite ends of the political spectrum. Despite these differences, their lives shared many similarities. They both were educated at exclusive private schools, although Robert insisted on this for his daughter. At age 6, she made her theatrical debut in Red Riding Hood's world. In contrast, Robert had his theatrical film premiere much later in life with the comedy 3 Live Ghosts in 1929. Notably, her father didn't go out of his way to make things easier for her. Elizabeth expressed that her father, Robert Montgomery, tended to make her life harder, sometimes going out of his way to do so. She wondered if this might be his problem. While he provided her with the best of everything, clothes, education, and the like, he also had high expectations. Elizabeth perceived Robert as a highly complex man, and she believed she never measured up to Martha in his eyes. Despite feeling that she never replaced Martha in his heart, Elizabeth thought she played a role in soothing his grief. Her childhood. Elizabeth's childhood took place between her parents' expansive estate in Paterson, New York, and their sophisticated residence in Beverly Hills. The latter was the location for numerous dinner parties and Sunday brunches attended by prominent individuals. Her parents were part of A-list circles and regarded as Hollywood royalty. They were distinguished, poised, and intelligent leaders in the community. In their everyday lives, they embraced privacy and tranquility, rejecting exhibitionism and eccentric behavior like many of their friends. The couple spared no expense in providing their only daughter, Elizabeth, with the finest education. She attended Westlake School for Girls and then Spence School, prestigious institutions with the purpose of guiding her onto an academic path far removed from the entertainment industry. Despite her parents' wishes, Elizabeth harbored a deep desire for her father's approval. Robert Montgomery, a movie star, and Elizabeth Allen, a Broadway actress turned wife, formed a distinguished couple. Robert, however, strongly opposed the idea of his daughter becoming an actress. Against her father's wishes, Elizabeth pursued acting, enrolling as a student at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts upon completing her education. After finishing acting school, Elizabeth was eager to dive into her career. Elizabeth Montgomery had already disappointed her parents by diving into show business, but now she sought a significant favor from her father. She aspired to secure a role on her father's TV series, Robert Montgomery Presents. Despite his reluctance, he permitted her debut on his show, though he remained displeased about introducing his daughter to the world of celebrity. Unfortunately, their strained relationship would contribute to some of Elizabeth Montgomery's subsequent challenges. If Montgomery believed that becoming a successful Broadway star would win her father's approval, she was mistaken. Her first show, Late Love, earned her a Theatre World Award, a commendable achievement for her debut performance. However, it fell short of satisfying her father. During the show's run, Mr. Montgomery sent her notes critiquing her performance. Failing to prove herself through acting, Elizabeth attempted to please her father by making a questionable decision, marrying the wrong man. A troubled relationship. Elizabeth's troubled relationship with her father influenced more than just her career. It seeped into her love life in increasingly unsettling ways. In 1954, she married Frederick Kamen, a wealthy, well-connected socialite unrelated to show business, aiming to finally gain her father's approval. Her one-year marriage to Frederick Kamen ended in failure. Fred was young, handsome, and affluent. He belonged to New York's upper crust, which was a detail that pleased Robert Montgomery. However, the union was doomed from the start. While Robert was thrilled due to Frederick being the same age as Elizabeth, it turned out Fred wanted a wife, and Elizabeth aspired to be a star. They divorced a year later. When Elizabeth Montgomery took on her first Hollywood film, The Court-Martial of Billy Mitchell, alongside heartthrob Gary Cooper, it led to turmoil in her personal life. Despite being married to Kamen at the time, Cooper, an attractive older man, became a complicating factor. During that period, rumors circulated that Cooper, renowned in Hollywood for his romantic pursuits, pursued her on the Mitchell set. Cooper's persistence was evident as he frequently flirted with Elizabeth and was actively seeking her attention. At one point, Coop, as he was sometimes called, went missing, prompting a thorough search by a stage manager on the set. After knocking on Cooper's locked dressing room door, the actor finally responded, and Elizabeth was reportedly seen inside. Although it seemed she might have succumbed to Cooper's charms, the gossip about their alleged affair remained unverified. Gig Young. Soon after, Elizabeth found herself walking down the aisle again, this time with actor Gig Young, who later won the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for 1969's They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Robert was happy with Frederick but was very unhappy with Gig Young. Despite caring about her father, Elizabeth occasionally teased him. If she knew something bothered him, she would deliberately do it. The interesting twist was that Gig Young was an older actor, nearly Robert's age. This unconventional choice agitated Robert Montgomery, and Elizabeth took delight in it. She also formed a friendship with Bette Davis, with whom Robert had a strained relationship, relishing in his reactions to their camaraderie. Elizabeth, apart from her remarkable beauty, was a compassionate individual dedicated to helping the disabled. Her humility and lack of pretension, despite her status, greatly contributed to her charm. These qualities seamlessly translated into her role in Bewitched, capturing the hearts of everyone. However, her choice of a new husband stirred her father's anger. Her husband not only significantly exceeded her in age, but also belonged to the show business, a field Robert Montgomery disapproved of. To worsen matters, Gig Young struggled with a troublesome drinking habit.
But his real life was anything but a happy ending story. His friends and family believe his problems came from his love affair with the bottle.
Unfortunately, Young's behavior took a dark turn, and Elizabeth, in a sorrowful turn of events, found herself trying to rescue him from his own destructive actions. The marriage between Elizabeth and Gig, which took place in 1956 and ended in divorce in 1963, was far from smooth. Gig battled escalating alcoholism and mental health issues. Despite his striking handsomeness, he displayed an alarming level of immaturity for his age.
When he talks about a simple, dull, unimaginative husband, he means himself.
Well, he didn't say he was in love.
While it remains uncertain whether he received a bipolar diagnosis, his conduct strongly suggested it, according to biographers. This situation created an emotional roller coaster for Elizabeth, reminiscent of her childhood experiences. The constant ups and downs were something she wanted to avoid, having lived through it in her youth. It's a common occurrence for individuals to unconsciously replicate patterns from their family history, often ending up with partners who resemble their own parents. Tragically, in 1978, Gig married his fourth wife, Kim Schmidt, and just 3 weeks after their wedding on October 19th, he fatally shot her and then took his own life. The motive behind this shocking incident remains unknown.
Gig Young and his new wife came here to this hotel right here, this apartment behind me, the Osborne, and he shot her and then turned the gun on himself.
William Asher. Despite her personal struggles, Elizabeth continued to excel in her professional life. She appeared on various TV series and earned her first of 9 Emmy nominations for an episode of The Untouchables in 1961. During the filming of 1963's Johnny Cool, Elizabeth collaborated with director William Asher, who was 12 years her senior and a TV producer and director. A connection was established between them during this period. While involved in the production of Johnny Cool, Elizabeth held the unique status of being romantically linked to the director. However, this association didn't shield her from mishaps. Her hand suffered a crushing blow in a car door, and she endured severe bruises while leaping onto a boat. The Los Angeles Times went so far as to dub her the most bruised actress in pictures. Beyond the physical toll, this film took an emotional toll on her as well. Johnny Cool subjected Elizabeth's body to significant strain, yet that wasn't the only challenge she faced. In a particular scene, the script required her character to deal with an uncomfortable situation with one of the male characters. Despite her strength, filming this scene proved to be emotionally and physically demanding for Elizabeth. Despite enduring all these challenges, her director and boyfriend took a heartless step. He callously removed the entire scene from the final cut of the movie. Nevertheless, Elizabeth remained undeterred in her commitment to working with Asher. At the time of their collaboration, William Asher's personal life was entangled in complications. He was in the process of separating from his first wife, the mother of his children. While he was directing Elizabeth in Johnny Cool, he engaged in simultaneous affairs with 3 women. Asher ventured east after the completion of Johnny Cool. The emotional bond between him and Elizabeth had already taken root during the filming of the movie. In the East, he played a pivotal role in creating and directing The Patty Duke Show. He occupied a 2-bedroom suite in a hotel where, on certain days, he had one woman in one bedroom and someone else in the other, neither aware of the other's presence. It resembled a scene from a sitcom, and in this intricate scenario walked Elizabeth, revealing to Asher that she was pregnant.
Aaron?
Yes, dear.
Louise is gonna have a baby.
Who?
Along with all of these challenges, the assassination of President Kennedy added another layer of complexity. Asher, deeply connected to the president, particularly through his close friendship with Peter Lawford, experienced a profound emotional upheaval. This turmoil reached a point where he was requested to exit The Patty Duke Show. Despite being the co-creator, William's name was removed from The Patty Duke Show, marking his departure from the project. Returning to Los Angeles with Elizabeth, he commendably distanced himself from other romantic entanglements. Regaining his footing, Asher delved back into work, engaging in the beach blanket movies alongside Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello. He took on multiple roles, directing, co-producing, and occasionally co-writing. Soon after, the script for Bewitched entered the scene. Originally eyeing Tammy Grimes for the lead role, the show underwent substantial changes in its conception by Saul Sachs, all credited to Asher. He orchestrated a shift in perspective, renaming characters and refining their relationships. After producing a pilot and Elizabeth welcoming their baby, the series received the green light. The union between William and Elizabeth initially flourished. Despite his wanderlust tendencies, many say that Elizabeth was unequivocally the love of William's life. He relinquished his wild ways, and they worked together tirelessly, establishing a beautiful home and a beach house in Malibu. The two were very much in love as Elizabeth became pregnant multiple times. Bewitched. While Johnny Cool received a lukewarm reception from critics, it didn't discourage Elizabeth. She proceeded to marry Asher in 1963. The couple devised a plan to present themselves as a formidable show business pair and swiftly stumbled upon a comedic series that piqued their interest. This was Bewitched. Elizabeth's iconic portrayal of Samantha in Bewitched left an unforgettable mark on the public's memory. When contemplating a trademark for Samantha's character, director William Asher observed a distinctive quirk in Elizabeth. This was her tendency to twitch her upper lip when nervous, inadvertently causing her nose to follow suit, creating the impression of nose twitching. This unique trait became Samantha's trademark. Bewitched was a tale of a contemporary witch navigating her comical relationship with her entirely mortal husband. For Elizabeth, this marked a significant shift, and the show was going to revolutionize her career. Embracing her dream role as Samantha Stevens, Elizabeth soon found herself on the edge of a potential nightmare. Both she and her husband, the director, had accidentally thrown a wrench into Bewitched's production. They were expecting a child. As they continued filming the first season, Elizabeth's unmistakable baby bump presented a formidable challenge. The prospect of a miracle was the only hope for salvaging Bewitched. While Elizabeth anticipated the joy of impending motherhood, the producers faced a problem: the dilemma of how to deal with her expanding midriff. Miracles were scarce, but creative solutions were not. The devised plan involved prioritizing scenes devoid of Elizabeth, which would be difficult given her central role. The intention was to shoot these scenes first, allowing Montgomery to subsequently film her parts after giving birth, culminating in the show's premiere. When Bewitched finally aired on television screens, Elizabeth captivated audiences with her enchanting performance. The producers, seeking to amplify the Elizabeth magic, introduced Serena, Samantha Stevens' free-spirited cousin, known for her provocative clothes. Fans embraced this addition. Problems with Bewitched. Elizabeth's real-life spouse enjoyed a seemingly perfect life, while her on-screen husband encountered many issues. When the actor portraying her TV husband, Dick York, grappled with severe back pain, Elizabeth gave the matter to the show's writers to solve. Their less-than-clever solution involved confining husband Darren to the couch, bed, or off-screen in every scene. York's back pain worsened, and his coping mechanism took a darker turn. Dick York, seeking relief from chronic pain, descended into a distressing reliance on medication, which tragically escalated into alcoholism. Mid-scene, Elizabeth noticed York's drunken state. His woes seemed insurmountable until they took an unexpected turn. Elizabeth found herself contending with a co-star in turmoil, where pain and alcohol consumption affected his performance. To add to the complexity, York dropped another bombshell. He harbored romantic feelings for Elizabeth. It's worth noting that her real-life husband occupied the director's chair nearby. The Bewitched set transformed into a complex and challenging environment. Something had to change, or someone had to exit. Fed up with York's issues, his back pain, drinking, and professed affection, Elizabeth wanted to focus on work. During the 5th season's filming, York collapsed on set, which was the breaking point. Gracefully, the ailing actor stepped down, and Dick Sargent took on the role. Elizabeth wasn't overly concerned about who played her TV husband. However, trouble brewed when they replaced the director. An affair. Despite Bewitched's success, ranking among America's top TV shows, monotony settled in after a few seasons. In 1971, Elizabeth engaged in an affair with one of the directors, Richard Michaels, leading to the dissolution of both their marriages. When Bewitched wrapped up its run in 1972, primarily because Elizabeth felt ready to move on, the relationship between her and Asher was falling apart. Various perspectives exist on why this occurred. Amid the triumph of Bewitched and Asher's busy schedule with directing and producing films, he became consumed, sometimes oblivious to what was unfolding before him. Elizabeth, however, was growing discontented. Despite the immense success of Bewitched, she perceived herself as a versatile actor capable of diverse roles. But the show became a creative constraint, leading to her dissatisfaction. Asher, preoccupied with his commitments, remained oblivious, and their marriage began to strain. Additionally, both Elizabeth and Asher enjoyed alcohol, but Asher's drinking escalated to alcoholism. This added further strain to their relationship. Asher, not needing to direct every episode, took breaks to pursue other activities, but Elizabeth couldn't afford such luxuries. By the time Dick York left the show, replaced by Dick Sargent, the dynamics on set and between them were not as harmonious. Although Bewitched could have continued, Elizabeth, no longer willing, had already had an affair with one of her directors. The man in the director's chair on Bewitched was Elizabeth's husband. But when guest director Richard Michaels assumed the role, he became romantically involved with the lead actor. Elizabeth initiated a relationship with Michaels, and within the intimate confines of the Bewitched set, keeping it quiet proved nearly impossible. So the affair between Elizabeth and Michaels imploded dramatically. Both Elizabeth's spouse and Michaels' wife discovered the affair. They attempted to fix their marriages, which were shattered by affairs. Despite their earnest efforts, neither couple could salvage the relationship. Both marriages ended within a year of each other. As William Asher approached the end of his life, he still pined for Elizabeth, lamenting that it was all his fault and expressing his heartache. He couldn't overcome the loss. he never got over her. The end of Elizabeth and Asher's marriage occurred in October 1974, though it wasn't a topic she chose to discuss openly with the media. In an interview with the New York Daily News, she emphasized the importance of keeping personal matters private, stating that certain things should remain private and not everyone should air out their dirty laundry in public. During the final stages of Bewitched, morale on the set plummeted. Elizabeth, like many long-term TV stars, grew weary and sought an exit strategy. When she subtly suggested to producers that her tenure on Bewitched might be concluding instead of receiving empathy or encouragement, she was met with a financial offer. Elizabeth persisted for a few more seasons primarily for financial reasons, but in the 8th season, she decided to call it quits. Her marriage to the director had ended, and she saw no justification for continuing to portray a character she had grown weary of. She bid farewell to the series that had been her mainstay for nearly a decade. Now, she was a liberated woman. Another marriage. Elizabeth had, more or less, sworn off marriage after enduring everything she went through, but she remained open to the idea of love in her life. During her role in the TV film Mrs. Sundance, she crossed paths with actor Robert Foxworth, and an immediate connection sparked when she walked into the rehearsal hall. Intrigued by his name, which coincidentally matched her father's, Robert, she found herself drawn to the first man younger than her. She appreciated that he had never seen an episode of Bewitched. Although she fell in love with Robert Foxworth, marriage was not an immediate decision. He persistently proposed to her for 20 years, until finally she agreed. Their marriage took place in 1993, and it seemed to mark a significant chapter in her life. During those years with Robert, Elizabeth discovered a sense of inner tranquility that had often avoided her. Robert described her as a genuine homebody and an excellent cook. She enjoyed working in the garden, and their shared life with the children became a source of immense joy for her. In Robert, Elizabeth not only found love and true happiness, but also witnessed her career flourishing with numerous television movies over the decades. These roles allowed her to portray a diverse array of characters, showcasing an acting talent that hadn't always been given the chance to shine during her Bewitched days. So it seemed that after years of messy relationships and career troubles, Elizabeth finally made it. She found the happiness that she always deserved. Unfortunately, this period of contentment came to an abrupt end on May 18, 1995, when she passed away at the age of 62 due to colon cancer. Robert reflected on her passing, stating that it was quick. It only took 7 weeks from her diagnosis to her death. He also mentioned that she didn't want people crying over her passing. Faced with the inevitable and unwillingness to spend her final moments in a hospital, Elizabeth chose to return to her Beverly Hills home, where she shared her life with Foxworth. The serene love and tranquility she had found in her later years provided a nice contrast to the troubled early chapters of her life. Elizabeth Montgomery passed away in the morning, surrounded by Robert Foxworth and her 3 children from her previous marriage to William Asher. Her body underwent cremation. Robert expressed the belief that Elizabeth would be delighted with her children today. Witnessing them and her grandchildren would have filled her with pride. Her 3 children are named William, Robert, and Rebecca. Following her death, the family issued a statement describing Elizabeth Montgomery as the embodiment of the medium of television itself. She was portrayed as a friend who had graced the living rooms of many people across the world countless times, leaving a lasting impact on everyone's lives. As an actress, she brought joy through Bewitched and contributed to groundbreaking legislation with her performances in various TV shows. Beyond her acting career, she was a committed activist, supporting gay and lesbian civil rights, HIV/AIDS causes, and animal rights organizations. Above all, she was someone who cherished life and her work, generously sharing both with her family. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.